Okay. I don't know how this post is going to go. By the way, it's been a while. I am so sorry. I have been extremely sick. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff. And I got me another call. I still have my Civic. She's... Oh, God, that sound. She is currently covered up. But I still drive every now and then. But it's just fracking hot. I wasn't going to comment on this because I am kind of... I don't know. It's a hard situation regardless, and I don't want to seek fame off of this. So I just figured I'd talk about it. I'm going to talk about it on my way to work. That's where I'm going, you guys. I'm sorry. Sorry if I sound nasal because I have been really sick. So I don't like YouTube commentary channels because I feel like, I'm not going to say I don't like them. I don't like the majority of them because I feel like sometimes they get so stuck in the world of drama that they stop becoming a commentary channel and start becoming a joke. I stumbled upon Creepshow Art. I don't know. I used her as like background noise when I was playing The Sims or something. And some of her content was enjoyable. I just didn't invest like I've invested in other YouTubers, but I also recognize that these people are human beings. Just like myself. Okay, so just side note, I messaged Emily. I know she's probably got bombarded, but I messaged her something extremely personal. I do not expect her to read it. I do not expect her to respond. It was mainly to say from one survivor to another, and though our stories differ, I felt her pain. And I thanked her because I'm trying not to tear up because it's so hard for me. I'm not that strong yet. I'm not. I talked about it one time and I deleted the video because it was just, I couldn't. I still have a lot of anger. I've got things that I have to work on. And there was times where I was not the best person. So I get that and I can relate so much to her. Anyways, so that's just, I might talk about that later on. But I wanted to recognize that, recognize her for that, that I thanked her for that because that took freaking courage and people need to recognize that. But anyways, backtracking to Creepshow Art, something always rubbed me the wrong way with her. I didn't like her tone. Her tone came off very aggressive, very snarky. I didn't like the constant hating on herself. It was almost like a defense because I've done it myself and I'm not making excuses, but it's a very horrible coping mechanism where you will down yourself and hate on yourself so nobody else can first. That's why I used to do it, like self-sabotaging in a way. I'm turning my AC on, guys. I'm sorry. Hang on a second. Sorry. But yeah, so the self-sabotaging. I don't know why Creepshow Art does it. It could possibly be that. I'm not making excuses for her. I do not know her personally. I don't know her background. We're not going to get into that. I can only make guesses based on behavior, I mean, I have a master's in forensic psychology. I should know you don't just make, you can have an opinion. You can make educated guesses, but it's also not for us to do right now. We're not going to get into that. So I didn't really pay attention to, Creepshow Art. I was like, whatever, I moved on. So I wasn't invested. So I feel like I'm kind of like, I'm not really biased to either channel. I never knew who Emily Artful was. So I kind of felt like I was a person who could kind of step back and look and see what was going on. Because listen, I've seen the crap, of people outing each other and backstabbing each other. It doesn't surprise me. It's why I don't post on YouTube that much anymore. I cannot tolerate it. I'm the mindset that I can't handle it. I've dealt with my fair share of crazy. So when this stuff came to light and it was all over my YouTube feed and my Twitter feed, I was like, what is going on? And, and I'm looking at all the receipts. I'm looking at all the, evidence and so forth. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of bad. This is kind of bad, for somebody who brings herself out to be like this social justice warrior and advocate, and yet she trash talks, other people. But I was like, whatever, not my business. And then I started paying closer attention, and I was like, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right when she posted her, because again, I'm not even subscribed to her, but somehow it showed up in my newsfeed, or YouTube feed, I don't know what you call that crap, of her community post. And I've heard her stalking videos before, and something seemed off. And when I say something seemed off, is she seemed extremely too hyped up and calm. Now, that could be a defense mechanism. I'm not one to judge on that. It just seemed off. Hindsight's 50-50, people, you know? So when I'm reading this, I'm like, I'm not a tech guru, but I'm pretty sure that's not how IP addresses work. And then I was like, you know, so I'm reading more through it, and I don't know, it just, something didn't add up. It just seemed weird. And then all of a sudden I saw Emily Artful stuff coming up, and I started putting the timeline together. Now, me, being the weirdo that I am, just because I have a master's in forensic psychology, I wish I could tell you that I'm working in that field. I am so sad to say that with the pandemic and my illness, I am not able to work in my field. However, I put it in my writing, which is pretty fucking cool. But I still keep up to date with all the latest, and I'm, you know, subscribed to a lot of news journals and stuff like that. But anyways, my mind starts going to evidence, right? As circumstantial as certain things may be, I also can take a step back and understand why certain things happen as far as timelines, and you start putting the puzzle pieces together. Listen, just side note, I had an actual case where they changed the name of the victims and the offenders, you know, but anyways, it was an actual case. I had over 300 files on my computer that I had to go through alone with, I shouldn't say alone, because I had two partners in my class with me working on this, and we had to do a victim profile, we had to do an offender profile, who the likely offender could be. Now, that's not to say that that is exactly who that is, but you literally have to go searching through their past history. You have to go you dig up stuff that you wish you didn't see, you know, and it's unfortunate because it's on both sides. It's on the victim side, it's on the offender side, you know, things that should have never had to come to light, but unfortunately come to light, you know. So when you're doing these types of criminal behavioral analysts or analyzing situations, you know, you dig up dirt, you know, it's unfortunate. So that's where my brain went. That is exactly where my brain went. So I am scrutinizing every detail, and if I didn't understand something, I backed up. I'm like, wait a minute, let me rewind, pause, read it for myself. I read it out loud because it's a lot easier for me. Read it out loud, listen to what her reply was for that, and make sense of it, you know. And I was like, okay, there's some timelines crossing over here. Like, this is starting to make some sense, you know. So I'm not going to go into the full detail because I just, you know, this is off the top of my head. I feel more, maybe, you know, as much as I'm trying not to be biased towards this, I think there's always a little bit of bias, and that's the one thing they taught us in my schooling. There's always going to be, and you have to learn to separate it. This case, after I did what I consider my professional, I don't know, I just laugh at that, it just seems silly, scrutinizing, skeptical ways, I was able to kind of dive into, I was able to emotionally attach myself to Emily's pain. There were certain, I almost wish I could see her face when she, and I hate to say that, it's just because it's easier to see the nonverbal communication, because there was moments where, and I wrote this to her, oh my god, it's gonna rain, y'all. I choked up when she choked up. I took a breath when she took a breath. Because as she's explaining certain things, I am having, unfortunately, my own flashbacks. While our situations differ, there are some extreme similarities, and there's also similarities in the way that we dealt with things very poorly, our behaviors, you know, and owning our own bad behaviors. And I will say this about Emily, the people that are bashing her are ridiculous. They're just being stupid. I get it, and I love the fact that she said, I I hate it when people, I don't think she said I hate it, but I don't like it when people say I was that person, because I am that person who has evolved. And boom, that hit. I was like, oh my God, yes, thank you. Because you know what? I am still the very same person I was years ago. I've just evolved. I've learned to cope. I've learned to handle things a little bit differently. I've learned to set my boundaries. I've learned to, because of the situations that I have gone through. I was not always the greatest person. I sometimes, became a nasty person. I can blame it on my past all I want, but guess what? I still have to take responsibility for my own actions, and that is where I'm at with Creepshow. Take responsibility for your own actions. I would have more respect for you, and this goes out to anybody or anybody else, if you would have first admit your own faults, clean your own closet out, clean your own house, and make sure that's straight before you call anybody else out. We live in a age of technology. You better have them receipts. When I was going through what I went through, I had to document everything. The weather, the time of day, what his voice sounded like, what he wore, what they wore when they came and stalked me at work, what time of day it was, who I spoke to. I mean, it was so heart-wrenching and exhausting, but I still have these files, and I'm just not ready to get rid of them. I don't know why I'm holding on to them. I haven't read them in a while. It's whatever. Own up to your mistakes. No. Own up to what you did. I'm not even going to say mistakes at this point. Own up to what you did. But again, back towards Emily. I felt every emotion. How I just talked is how she talked in her video. And it's almost a way for us to... There's a little bit of anger, maybe. Not speaking for her, I'm speaking for myself. So there's a little bit of anger in between wanting to clarify and be extremely clear on what we're trying to get across. Like when she says, I know that I am a good mother. There was some strength in that. There was some anger in that because of what she had gone through. She's come a long way. And I will say, I'm trying not to cry. To be able to continue, to survive and to thrive, I should say, and push through an addiction while still dealing with this crap. And when I say still dealing with this crap, people, PTSD, I have complex PTSD. It does not go away. We have nightmares. We have triggers. We have paranoia. We do not trust. I have a lot that I could get into, but I'm not going to because it's extremely hard, and you will hear the anger come in my voice because I am angry, and it's something I have to deal with. But there was, in my letter to her, what I wrote to her was, through all of that strength that it took her to face the camera and look directly in the camera and say their names out loud, I cannot still say one of my offenders' names because it makes me want to gag. I can't do it. My brain protects me from it, and I dissociate, and I won't do it. I don't know if I'll ever get there, and that's okay. I'm not pushing myself. That takes strength. Y'all need to recognize that. But she said something. I've lied to myself for years, and this is why I didn't get help sooner, and I was a mess. She said that she is still afraid of Anthony. And what I wrote to her in that letter was, that made me pause, and I literally mouthed, I'm still scared too. While some people will see that as weakness, I see that as strength, because for the first time in a really long time, I acknowledged my fear. And now I can move on. I can move forward. I can work with my therapist through that. And owning that fear. Because every time I see somebody that looks like him, that sounds like him, that is even a little bit aggressive like him, I freak out. I have since worked through coping through that, but it does not mean I don't have issues later, like my nightmares and paranoia comes back, and it takes me a while to come down from that. It is awful. It is not something that I would wish upon my worst enemy. It's not something that anybody should claim they have as a joke. It is horrifying. So, that's my take on this. I'm not going to probably get into further because I got to go to work and I need to mentally prepare to go into work and not be crying. This was raw. I'm sure I'll touch base later on. It's been crazy, you guys. I've been really sick. My work schedule's been everywhere. My Meniere's disease has really kicked my butt. But that's my take.